G'day, Kaz. Welcome back to another episode of the This is Raleigh podcast. Welcome, guys. Those watching at home on YouTube or listening on your favorite device. What are we chatting about today?
Yeah, well, we thought we would. We've done the first few episodes. We've spoken a lot about Raleigh, and in that we've mentioned the location of Raleigh is so great for travel experiences. And we thought we would share some of our insights and expertise. I'm sure a lot of you who are listening already know that we have been long-term travellers for over 23 years, but also for the past 10 years we've had a very successful global travel blog.
Yeah.
So as a result of that, we have a lot of insights on travel, a lot of expert tips, where things are heading. And, you know, we have different partners. We work with Allianz Global Travel Insurance. So we get some insights from them as to where travel's heading. Plus, we speak to a lot of different people around the world in the travel industry. We had a lot of meetings a couple of weeks ago with people from tourism boards in the US and abroad. So we've been able to get a unique perspective on where travel is heading, some current trends and things to look at. And we know, we're pretty certain you probably love travel and exploring. So we thought we would share some of those insights for 2021 for you.
Everyone loves travel, don't they? Like,
Imagine that
not
they
everybody,
don't,
but in a different ways.
their own style.
But yeah, I mean, we're not one to keep lists, but we have been to, I don't even know what the total is, over 50 countries we visited around the world. A lot of states across the US. Again, I have no idea, probably 30 plus. And lived in 5 countries. So we do have a pretty broad background and perspective. Yeah, and obviously with the 2 travel sites, we are deep in the travel industry for 10 years. So we've been impacted greatly by COVID. But we know the travel industry is resilient and will bounce back. We don't know when and how, but hopefully we'll get back to some normalcy sooner rather than later. So yeah, if you guys love to travel, we're going to share our perspective and some ways that you can incorporate it into your life in 2021.
Yeah, we obviously want to see the travel industry come back, and we feel we have a really important role in helping it to do that. And, you know, I know our travel life looks glamorous, etc. I mean, it's a lot of hard work on our end, but the reason for its importance and for us to continue to share about travel, not only to help people have amazing vacations with people they love and all those great benefits that travel brings, but for the billions of people around the world who are impacted from an economic standpoint, very heavily rely on tourism, especially our small businesses, local businesses that form the heart of an area that we visit and love so much. I mean, the impact is absolutely huge on communities around the world for travel shutting down, and many people are suffering. So, you know, we're obviously an advocate for it, but we also feel that our role is important in helping move that industry along again.
Yeah.
Obviously, in a safe way, which is what we're doing and sharing and finding that balance of keeping people safe and moving things along in a safe way.
Yeah, that's one of the topics we'll talk about, I'm sure, in this podcast. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think like the travel industry, it's probably the biggest industry in the world.
Yeah.
And the trickle-down effect. I mean, obviously, every industry is pretty much hurting unless you're Jeff Bezos and Amazon and a few industries that just Netflix that just thrived on the fact that people are at home and what have you. But yeah, the trickle down effect from tourism, like from all the service industry. And I mean, there's some destinations that the travel industry is pretty much their whole industry. They've just been slammed. And yeah, the sooner we can help those guys recover and everybody infected who works, lives and breathes within the travel industry, that'll definitely help the economies, everywhere.
Yeah, and remembering that a lot of, probably most around the world don't have governments that look after their people. There's a lot you could say about that, and so the travel dollars is really what's feeding their family, and that's drying up.
Yeah, and then, I mean, there's going to be, obviously, travel will never be quite the same. Let's face it.
It's going to take some time to
recover. But hopefully we can, maybe it's a way that for the earth and the world to pause and bring it back in different, better ways, more manageable, sustainable. It's given us time to pause and reflect and have a look at deeply, and because it was pretty
Many
much
ways.
it was getting out of control in a lot of places and changing the whole fabrics of cities and destinations, and not so much for the good, particularly for how locals were impacted.
That's right. And before we jump in, we've got 11 travel trends for 2021 that we wrote a couple of weeks ago on My Travel Blog and sort of did an abridged version on This Is Raleigh. But before, that was written before we had our meetings, but just sort of bring it round to what most people were tending to say their outlook for the year is that obviously they're focusing on local travel at the moment, but a lot of people are very confident from tourism boards around the world that by late summer, fall, they'll start seeing things coming back. Not so much international. People are really predicting that'll be next year.
Yeah.
But they're thinking that numbers are starting to come down, be steady or come down in a lot of areas, but also with the rollout of the vaccinations that they're feeling that confidence, hopeful confidence. I mean, everybody knows that no one really can predict too much at the moment, but that's kind of the general thought there.
Yeah, I mean, the predictions. I mean, we've spoken to quite a few people from the tourism industry within domestic markets in the US, various countries in Europe. And yeah, the common theme seems to be like say, for example, whether it's Germany, once they open up, it'll just be within Europe. So it'll be like baby steps, testing their waters, making sure that goes fine before they're not just going to open up globally from day one. So I'm sure that will be the same. Like I know with Australia, they're talking about creating a bubble with New Zealand and one or two other places in that South Pacific region. So Europe will be the same. I guess the UK will probably be the same, maybe just within the UK. I guess the US will probably be the same, maybe with like Canada and, countries closer to North America and stuff like that. But it's going to be a process. That's for sure. Step by step process. We don't want to go back we don't want to take a giant leap backwards and have to start all over again. So
no, not at all. And obviously we're learning more about this every day, and it's been a year now and we're learning more and more.
Yeah, and the other thing, obviously every country's been affected differently and at different times.
Yep.
Like yes, it is a global problem, but there's been, peaks and troughs at different times in different places around the world. So that's been one of the big challenges too.
Every country's dealing with it differently. I know in Australia, their numbers are very low, but so tight with everything, perhaps that is one reason why they've kept it so low. But, I mean, their borders are closed and they don't anticipate opening that up until next year. So, you have to really do your research and really be up to speed with what all the different countries are doing and what their restrictions are.
Yeah, and everyone has different regulations. I mean, and there's governments and then there's airlines. There's like who's making the decisions, whether it's the airline, it's the government, it's the tourism industry. I mean, there's a lot of variables at play here, and there's going to be different rules and regulations for each destination, I guess. So,
that's right.
Going to be interesting.
Qantas have come out and said that they're not going to let people who haven't been vaccinated on their planes. Which, a lot of people are like, well, that's a bold move considering, that vaccination requirements should be something that comes from the government. So a lot of people are like up in arms about it. But at the same time, a lot of people are also supporting it for the safety comfort factor. So I think there's going to be a lot of that coming out too. There's going to be a lot of arguments, let's face it.
But they're already out there. If you're on social media, and we all, I'm sure you've seen the pros and cons of everyone. I mean, that's the thing. Everyone has an opinion, and depends where you get your resources from, your education, what you've been exposed to. It's not for me to judge, but it's a tough time for us humans to coexist.
It is, but this is how we
civilly
become
and
better.
maturely. Yes,
this is how we become better. We listen to one another and we share ideas, and from that, hopefully, come out with a solution that's great.
And that's what we've loved about travel. Like before I left Australia, and we've been to those 50 countries and lived in 5. Like I was way more closed-minded, but now you have the more global perspective from meeting people from all walks of life, working various jobs, different industries, exposed to different situations. I mean, that's the one thing we love about travel. Like you learn more about the world and accepting of other people's choices. I mean, like you don't agree with a lot of things, but that's the one thing you always used to say was like, isn't that interesting? Like their perspective, instead of like,
Tell me more.
instead of trying to shut them down, it's just like, listening, be a better listener. And
Yeah, I mean, it's not better or worse. It's just different is kind of our way of looking at things. And I think because of our travel, we've learned to fear less and embrace more. So you learn there's less to fear about differences and there's more about them to embrace and celebrate. And with that comes listening to each other and sharing ideas. I think the listening is something that's getting forgotten a lot lately, especially with social media. Everyone has a platform and everyone wants to share their views they're passionate about, which is understandable. But listening is we have 2 ears.
Yeah, everyone has a megaphone on social, and just we got to be careful how we use that. But it's really interesting. Obviously, us being in the travel industry with 2 websites for the past 10 years, and that's how we make our income. And we love to travel. Versus somebody who might just take their one annual vacation per year, like how fast they want this to move along and open up. I mean, so obviously priorities, like people are just happy to go about their life, doing their job, living in their hometown, versus somebody who travels like several times a month, or a business traveler, or has a travel business like us. Like everyone's going to have a different perspective, and everyone's going to want things to open and move at a different pace and different safety measures put in place. So it's tricky. It's tricky. It's tricky. It's not it's not a one size fits all, and there's going to be not everyone's going to be happy with some outcomes and some measures that are put in place. So just going to have to roll with it and do our best.
That's right. Everyone has to do the best from where they are with what they have.
With kindness.
With kindness and love. This is what it's teaching us, how to move forward.
Yes, and let's not forget Mother Nature, the Earth. Like it's had a big pause. I mean, how much has the Earth probably appreciated? Like the less planes in the sky, the less buses and the cruise ships and the pollution, and the people in the cities, and that's been probably the biggest positive, I guess, is the Earth's had a break the last 12 months or so.
And break.
Because it was getting overrun and we're kind of like taking it for granted, let's face it. But now I think would be more meaningful travel and looking after the environment.
Let's hope so.
Better.
Well, that's definitely one of our trends.
Should we talk about that?
Talk about that, and from our own insights and perspective. And from all the various people that we've been travelling to, it's always been our way of travelling. But I really think people are starting to really start to think more about sustainable travel and how travel has impacted the earth in so many negative ways, and what we can do moving forward to tread more gently and to take greater care of the planet. And I think tourism bodies are starting to come together and using this opportunity to come up with different, guidelines or policies or whatever they can do to reduce the tourism overwhelm. And if you look at places like Venice, just a complete nightmare before COVID with how badly it was overrun with tourists. And I think they've had this time to sort of sit down and, well, what can we do? Now is the time for us to put things in place to protect our local communities, to protect our environment so that it doesn't get overburdened by visitors to our region. So we're going to definitely see more of that. And I know the tourism people that we spoke to recently, they're all putting out campaigns now about sustainable travel, eco-friendly travel.
Travel slower. I mean, and then from a local perspective, obviously lockdowns and people were going to nature. So state parks, national parks, trails and stuff like that. Obviously, getting out in nature, getting some sun, fresh air, being close to the earth, and again, is important for your health, mental well-being and physical well-being, like vitamin D, building your immune system, staying active, getting out in nature versus just being stuck at home, particularly mentally, health-wise. So, again, they got to be, we live near the Smoky Mountains National Park, which is already the most visited national park in the US because it's near at least, 60% of the US population is within an X amount of hour drive or some crazy statistic. But anyway, yeah, so national parks and state parks, you got to be careful that they're not overrun and damaged and trashed. And because I think that was happening in some national parks, unfortunately. People were just like abusing it. And the old saying is like, leave a place better than when you arrived. Like, leave only footprints. So especially like national park. I mean, that's one of the best things about the US. The national park system, they're amazing. We've been fortunate to go to a lot of them, and don't want to lose them or have restrictions on them where you can't visit them for a certain amount of reasons. But like, they're a treasure.
They are, and they give so much benefit to your life. And it's just following a few simple guidelines. Stay on the trail. Number one, stay on the trail. I know we've visited so many national and state parks, and the kids would go to run off it, and we were constantly educating them. And now they're like, don't go off the trail. They know it. It's just educating. Take all your rubbish out. Don't pick anything off the trees. Don't take anything out of the park. Leave it where it is. Do not try and feed the wildlife. I mean, we've seen so many people do that. Don't do it.
Don't try and get a selfie with a bison.
No.
That's not going to end well.
Yes.
I've seen bad stories.
Yeah. There's a book actually about deaths in Yellowstone.
Oh, yeah. And someone
crazy.
recently got drunk and was wandering around the main geyser there in Yellowstone and fell into the scoldering, like, oh man, I don't even want to think about that.
When we were there, we saw someone was about to put his hand in to check the temperature.
Yeah, I mean, there's warning signs everywhere, but I don't believe the sign. I'm just going to put my finger in there and see how hot it is.
So, there's just, simple guidelines.
Yeah.
Just don't leave your rubbish. If the trash can is full, put the rubbish in your bag.
Yeah.
Take it out with you. Take it home,
Yeah.
and look for alternatives as well. I mean, before COVID, some of these national parks were overrun, and
that's when state parks become really popular. And
so just even go to national like forests and that aren't quite national parks, and reserves,
monuments and stuff like that.
Yeah, so you can spread it out, and you're going to have a nicer experience if you're in
we're
nature.
hoping to experience a lot of those in North Carolina. Like, from a Raleigh perspective, obviously we have Umstead State Park on our doorstep, 15 minutes down the road, which is awesome. Gets really popular. And then again, like, if you can avoid weekends, things like that, if you're flexible, try and pick your times. Jockey's Ridge State Park in the Outer Banks, which is great. We've got a video coming out about hang gliding there, which was a bunch of fun. Like I mentioned, the Smoky Mountains National Park. There's a lot of great nature in North Carolina. But like beaches, don't forget the beaches. And again, be responsible on the beaches. Forests, lakes. There's so many lakes in North Carolina too. You can just get out on the water. Another way to get in nature. So you don't have to go to the Smoky Mountain National Park.
There's so many different natural experiences to have and ways to enjoy it, like hiking, kayaking, paddleboarding, which are all eco-friendly, and look for companies that support ecotourism. Support the
them. Supporting local businesses who have obviously been struggling and suffering. So if you don't want to do a hike or an activity by yourself, there are companies out there that can help, like, guide you and hold your hand basically, and have all the equipment. You just got to turn up and there's small group activities as well, where there's a lot of eco-friendly kayaking tours that we've done, which are awesome.
Great.
If you want to camping spots, a lot of great camping spots. There's plenty of ways to get out there close to the earth. Without leaving North Carolina, and we're going to talk about domestic travel later.
Yep, absolutely. So another trend that we've been looking at and talking about is people are going to be actively seeking, if not before, more now, greater value and service. So they want to, book. If they're going to book, they want companies that they can trust, reliable platforms, because when COVID hit, there was a lot of people losing money. They couldn't cancel, and a lot of faith was lost in some booking platforms because it was kind of a nightmare trying to get cancellations and refunds and stuff. So I think people are going to be demanding better from the companies that they go to, and they're going to be doing their due diligence to find out what does the company stand for, how are they looking after me on my travels, do they have clear booking guidelines, do they have cancellation policies, are they going to make sure I'm safe when I'm traveling and comfortable, etc. So definitely looking at greater value and service.
Yeah, totally. It was a mess, and I'm sure it's still a mess. People trying to get their refunds for trips they had to cancel and stuff like that. I guess the tip is moving forward is book direct. Like if it's a hotel for accommodation, book direct through that hotel. Obviously, there's a big booking platforms out there like Expedia, Booking.com, what have you, which, you know, they're kind of the middlemen, brokers and stuff like that. And it's kind of harder to cancel your trip and get refunds and versus going direct with the hotel, that point of contact. Same with flights too, book direct with the airline instead of like cheap flights or Skyscanner or whatever. I mean, I'm not saying that you can't book with them and their customer service is not great and get a refunds, but do your due diligence and check it out. Like see what other people have had an experience with. But yeah, whether it's a tour, hotel, accommodation, flights, transportation, I guess the simplest way is to book direct, so you got less of a headache, less people to go through to get to the yes person to get that refund or cancellation.
That's right. And kind of on that point is looking for greater value and deals, credit card hacking. If you're into that, we'll be sharing more over on the travel blog about that because we've been diving into that for the past few months. But
yeah, if only we did that like 5 years ago.
Well, we did. We
not with
collected a lot of points, but we
yeah.
didn't do it with a clear strategy in mind. But now we have. But there's some really great bonus deals out at the moment, and we predict probably we'll be seeing that for the next couple of months at least, as you know, credit card companies are trying to, as they partner with airlines and things to get that travel moving again. So, you know, if you haven't done it yet, you can. We have nearly 1 million reward points ready to use, just waiting until we can actually go overseas again. But I mean, that's a lot of free flights.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
Can they be worth $1 each, please?
That's just from us spending on everyday things, grocery, fuel, things that we're going to be spending anyway.
Yeah.
You can hack into that with the credit cards and collect all these mileage points so that you can get like flights and hotel stays, etc. So this is a really great time to do that.
Yeah, and one we're excited about is the Southwest program. Obviously, RDU, there's got a big hub for Southwest Airlines. They're a great airline anyway, like budget friendly and stuff like that. Got a lot of destinations, and their rewards program and credit card program is great. We've been learning a lot about that, putting that into practice. So that's something, you know, Raleigh specific that you can look into.
And they're phenomenal because if you do the hacking correct, you can get companion pass.
Yeah, the buddy pass.
The buddy pass, where if you fly, anyone can fly with you for free, which is great. And you also they have you can cancel your flights there, no penalty. You can,
the luggage
is
situation.
free. All these amazing perks through Southwest, which we've never flown them before, I don't think.
We have.
Yeah, we have.
We have out of Raleigh before, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But again, like I wish we used to just book the cheapest flight. Like we had no real strategy. We didn't play the credit card game, and it is a game. Like you got to be careful with it and know what you're doing. Like don't just get credit cards for the sake of getting credit cards and accumulate debt. You got to be smart with it.
Oh no, it's money
Make sure you
spend anyway.
You have the ability to pay. You don't want to be leaving big balances on your credit card and accruing a lot of interest and stuff like that and defaulting. No. You got to have the wherewithal and the means to pay off that that balance monthly and stuff
every
like
month,
that. And
so that you don't get interest charges.
Yeah, each credit card reward program like Southwest or what have you has their specific points system and the best places to use that card to accumulate the rewards and stuff like that. But yeah, we'll share some blog posts about that in the future.
Yes, we do. And we do in our travel trends post, which I'll leave in the show notes. We have some links to some useful people that we know that we've learnt the travel
actually,
hacking from.
there's a lot of travel hacking stuff that we can put together. We've got a lot of information. I mean, even another example is like hotels.com, like stay 10 nights, you accumulate 1 night free. There's a lot of programs out there, and unless you don't know about them, but we're going to bring them to light to you because we've got all that content that we've got behind the scenes sitting there.
That's right.
We're happy to share and help you guys because, everyone's itching to at least do a road trip or a domestic trip when we can safely with, you know,
If you can save money doing it, why not?
absolutely. Why spend more than you have to?
Okay, so moving on to another trend, which I'm sure everyone's kind of aware of this, but you know, moving towards simplicity and seclusion. It's just everyone is
Oh man,
tiptoeing back
give
into
me a log cabin in the woods and away from humans.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, people, you know, we're ditching.
No Wi-Fi, no social media.
yeah.
I'll be a man in the woods, JT. Just get me out there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, with my goatee and my hat and my whatever else. But yeah, I mean, going to the buffets, the flashy hotel stays and the tour buses, and this is not travel in 2021. We're not sure when that will return. But, you know, we've had almost a year, everyone in isolation, so we've gotten used to quietness, simplicity, isolation. So I don't think people are in a hurry to return back to that fast-paced, chaotic life where everyone's crowding you in. So, you know, you're going to be looking at camping, glamping, apartment rentals, out-of-the-way places where you can go and not be so crowded. And
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I like being around humans.
yeah.
But we all need some downtime every now and then in nature, obviously. But simple. Keep it simple. Like that's going to be the trend instead of the big city destinations. It might be a smaller city town, an hour out of that hub to explore, like the smaller regional areas, like we talked about the parks and stuff like that. But yeah, camping. I mean, the beauty about an apartment stay is you're not in a hotel like with a bunch of other people. You got your own space and you can cook your own meals and you don't have to go out to a restaurant if you don't feel comfortable doing that. So yeah, there's always options, which is helpful for different price points, different comfort levels, different the size of your family, like you name it. But yeah, simple is always good.
Yeah, I think people are going to be finding beauty in the simple again. Like I feel like, you know, travel, and we'll speak more about this point in a moment, but travel became a place of big bucket list items and huge events and big cities and the most amazing Instagram shot ever, that kind of stuff. And now I think people are seeking, okay, I'm just going to walk down this charming small town main street. I'm going to talk to a few locals and sit and enjoy a coffee for an hour and just go slow and really absorb and appreciate that part of life.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the other day, one of my favorite things is just to walk around a city or a town and just take it in and take some photos and talk to locals. Like that's one of the best things.
Yeah, that's why we've always lived in other countries because that's what we love to do. Yeah.
I was thinking about that. I can't remember where I was. I think I was just walking around downtown Raleigh taking some photos and I'm like, oh, I love this. I missed it so much, man. It's just wandering and like no set direction, just turn at the corner. If this looks good, I'll walk this way.
Yeah. One of our favourite things to do, or definitely mine, I'm pretty sure you agree, and Americans just haven't jumped into this because they love sleeping in. But I love being out on the streets, whether it's in nature, in the city, and waking up when the city wakes up before. Yeah. I mean, I've done it in New York. I don't know how many times I'll get up and I'll be out wandering around at 6 a.m. in the morning, even in like Thailand, all these crazy busy cities. If you get up and you just watch the city come to life before everybody comes in, it is magical. And it's that slow surprise. There's nothing like it.
It's one of the best times of the day. Absolutely, I agree. I mean, like, because we lived in Bangkok, Thailand for 6 months teaching English and spent like a year in Asia. And yeah, you get up earlier in Asia and then they're setting up like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. It's when they're setting up their markets and their stalls and stuff. And it's not as crazy because later on in the day it's just full on. But yeah, it's a great time of the day to be alive. And then plus you get more out of your day. So if you're on a vacation somewhere or a weekend getaway, like, I mean, everyone likes to sleep in, but you waste half your day.
And you miss the crowds. Like when we went to, just when you and I went to the Grand Canyon and we were up like 4:30 and we hiked down into the canyon.
Down to the rim. Oh, not to the rim, but down into the The Bright Angel Trail
Yeah.
down towards the river, as close as we could get.
It's close on that trip because it was a 12-mile return. Remembering
Yeah.
we were coming out as we were walking up, which was
Yeah.
tough. But we got out. We finished around 10:30, 11. We came out, and it was stinking hot. I mean, this is in the middle of the summer, and we couldn't get over. We had the entire canyon almost to ourselves up until the last mile
Coming
out when everyone started to wake up. At 10:30, they start hiking into the canyon, all these
Yeah.
crowds of people.
Yeah.
It
I was
like,
talking to someone
gosh.
recently about that, and it's that interesting perspective that, like, yeah, you Americans, you do love you sleep in. We've noticed that from a lot of places they go. And someone said, there was a tourist in here, he said Americans love their breakfasts. They love their buffet breakfasts and stuff. So that's
true.
their first priority. But yeah, you get up early and beat the crowds and have it all to yourself, and then you got the whole day ahead of you.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like you have 2 days.
hate sleeping in, really. Like, whether we've been out on the town drinking and sleeping with a hangover, and I hate
You
it.
wake up at 10, you're like, oh my God, I've lost the entire day.
to do.
What was I doing?
I know. I know if you got kids and young kids, it's hard to drag them out of bed early and do stuff. I know, but from a kid's perspective, a parenting perspective, early in the morning when the kids have got their most energy, like, I hate having to do a hike or an activity late in the afternoon. The kids are tired and grumpy, or take them out to dinner and stuff like that. So I'd much rather take the kids out to breakfast or lunch.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, they're tired, they're moody, they're grumpy, and it's like, that's when you just need some downtime.
Oh yeah, I did an interview just last week, and they asked tips with kids. I said just skip dinner with kids.
Skip dinner,
at
man.
restaurants.
Plus
Younger
breakfast,
kids anyway.
breakfast and lunch, way more casual. Obviously, there's some casual dinner spots, and usually breakfast and lunch is cheaper too than dinner menus, and a lot of places have specials and stuff, or just do brunch. But yeah, early morning, and then the kids can have some free time in the afternoon. They could swim in the pool, at the hotel, or swim at the beach, whatever. But we always like to plan our major activity in the morning.
Yeah.
and get it done.
Yeah, that's right. And then you can just relax in the afternoon when everyone's tired. So that's the simple and secluded travel, mostly in nature. Moving back to the sustainable travel idea. The man in the woods. Come on, JT, break out in some dance
Smokies,
moves.
Smoky Mountains.
Okay, so moving on from that point, we saw a lot of this when the lockdown happened. People were, going crazy. And so RV travel took off, or camping, or glamping. So that will continue definitely through the rest of this year and into next year. We've done podcasts and video on our other channel about RV travel. We have some blog posts and stuff because, we did 18 months around Australia and we did 12 months in the US living out of an RV with kids while we're trying to work and all of that kind of stuff. So we have a lot of tips, and one thing that we recommend is that a lot of people now are going, well, I can work remotely, I'm just going to go out and live in an RV and travel. Our tip is really seriously think about it. Do not go and sell your house and all your possessions straight away to do that, because you might not like it. And as we figured out, like we liked it, but it's not something we want to do forever. And the only way you can really get a great sense of that is you're actually out doing it.
Yeah.
So we suggest
Test the waters.
rent an RV, maybe different types of RVs to see if you
there's ways
like
to
it.
do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's rental companies. You can just rent an RV and take a 1 or 2 week trip. Or if you want to tow a fifth wheel or whatever. Or go and stay in a cabin or whatever it is. Don't. Some people sell all their possessions, like you said, sell their house, spend $100,000 on an RV and going to travel around full time. And if you don't like it, it's very hard to get back into the real estate market. It might be hard to get back into your job or whatever it is that you left. But test it first, rent something and go and experience it. It's a growing industry. It's a huge growing industry, but it's not for everybody. You're in a confined, much smaller place than your house. Living on top of each other, you're trying to run a business, you're trying to homeschool your kids, trying to explore a place. It's tiring.
Yeah, there's a lot to consider, especially in the US. We found RV travel more challenging for many reasons, mostly just population and weather, really. So there is definitely a lot to consider from that aspect. It is, as it's popular, it's been popular for a while now, especially the last 12 months. So it's going to be busy out there, and You do have to, surprisingly, we never had to book anything ahead in Australia because we have all that space. But here you do have to book things.
Yeah, like
in
weather-wise, like
advance.
winter time, like the Great Migration south down to Florida or southern Arizona or southern Texas, and just escape. You don't want to be in an RV in like the Northeast and stuff in winter and stuff like that. But yeah, like there's a lot of people in the country, a lot of RVs on the road. Only so many like RV parks. Obviously, boondocking is helpful. That's a way. That's like free camping using solar power and stuff like that, which we did a lot of, which is cool. But I mean, you can't do that everywhere either. It's easier on the West Coast than the East Coast. But yeah, rent like RV Share is a company you can rent them from, or I mean, like a Class A motorhome through Cruise America if you want to do a little road trip and just see how you feel if you've never done it before. But we can link to in the show notes to our other content that we've already created.
Yeah, I think also one thing, if a lot of people obviously based in North Carolina, the East Coast, we think RV travel is a lot more challenging on the East Coast just because it's congested and more populated, and so you have less of the wild open spaces.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at so many cities on the East Coast too, if you are towing something big or driving something big, it can be difficult in terms of navigation, getting around cities and all of that as well. So I think on the East Coast, you do have a lot more to consider when it comes to RV travel, and perhaps camping or glamping might be a better option.
Yeah, just taking shorter trips. I mean, like we invested 120 grand for our F250 truck and our 37-foot travel trailer. That we used that for a year full time. I mean, 120 grand. I mean, you can have some awesome short trips in the US for that, like just renting a car or driving a car, staying in an apartment, camping, cabins. Like you can still get to all those places without having to do it full time and outlay 120 grand up front, and then you got to try and sell it at the end if you don't like it, like we did. There's options. There's other ways. I mean, you can do it. A lot of people do love it full time. I mean, it depends on your personality, your travel style, your budget.
And we did sell ours in the end, so it wasn't 120 all.
No, we did recoup some of the costs. I mean, obviously you don't buy a truck and an RV for an investment, like they depreciate straight away. Lots to think about.
There really is. So we'll leave resources in the show notes for you to consider different things. But it can be, it is.
It is a great way to explore. I mean, the road trips and RVing and camping in the US, that's one of the best ways to see the country. But
it really is. You can go off the beaten path.
You don't have to sell everything and do it full time. You can do shorter trips.
Yeah. A lot of people are doing the rentals and things.
3 weeks or 6 weeks and just explore a region and then come home.
Yeah, I think
have a base. That's what we love. We love having a base and doing shorter trips. A lot less stressful.
So you mentioned road trips, so that's another big trend. I mean, for us, it's kind of like, what do you mean that's a trend? That's how we always travel. But domestic road trips, you're moving. We all have this sense now of having our own little personal bubble, and so you take your bubble and you put it in your car bubble, and you keep moving and traveling and exploring in your own bubble. So it's keeping you safe and secure.
I mean, they say road trips are back, but I mean, did they really ever go away anywhere? I mean, the great American road trip, like everyone loves a road trip. Like, throw it in the car and you got the flexibility. You can stop when you want. If you need a bathroom break or a snack break, let the kids run around at the park or a beach, and then off you go again. Like, you can't do that on a plane or a train, obviously. So road trips are so practical. Like, we've always loved road trips. From cost perspective, flexibility. And then there's a great road system in the US, so why not use it? Like whether it's the interstate or the smaller roads, I mean, you can get anywhere fairly easily.
The journey becomes part of the experience. I mean, in the US, there's so many different like quirky roadside stops. I mean, up in New England, we did the fall road trip there a couple of years ago, and I recently put this out on IGTV. We discovered America's Stonehenge, just this quirky roadside attraction we never would have known about, but that's kind of the pathways that road tripping can take you down.
Yeah, I mean, like there's something around every corner. Like instead of flying from A to B and missing everything in between, you drive there. You just, who knows what you're going to discover. I mean, obviously, we know if you got young kids, it can be, they can play up in the back seat. That can be stressful and a headache, but there's strategies for that too. And
which we do share on the blog. We do.
And the three keys with travel with kids is like when they have meltdowns, they're either tired, hungry, or bored. So if you can solve them, like get them a good night's sleep, make sure you got enough snacks and enough to keep them entertained. and then you're going to stack the odds in your favour that you'll have a memorable trip.
That's right.
But if you don't plan for all that, it can go downhill very quickly.
Yeah, and we have a blog post, a guide to surviving road trips with your kids. But the
Yeah.
other thing that I think, well, they're the two things I've noticed with kids that creates the worst meltdowns ever. Heat and bugs.
Heat and bugs. Yes.
Creates meltdowns in
Yes, we
adults
had
too.
a major meltdown with Clara when she was younger in one of the most important temples in Bangkok, Thailand, and
my
she just
God.
lost it, and everyone was just looking
The
at
most
us, and we're like,
important temple.
"Who owns this child?"
She was suffering from jet lag. She
It
was
was
like,
it was jet lag. It was
She's
if you know
5.
Bangkok is hot
Oh my
and
God.
humid. I mean, adults lose it, and she was 5. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like cutting us some slack, obviously. But,
Yeah.
but it was like,
Oh,
oh,
and
man,
it was like, oh my God,
did it
what
have
do
to
we
be
do?
in this important temple? And then the other time, bugs, like in Australia, Outback Australia, in Uluru, the big rock, the heart of Australia. It's a 10-kilometre walk around the base, and the flies were
they were
just
horrendous.
insane. I've never seen flies like it in my life. We had to wear head nets. That's how bad they were. Like, I was trying to take a photo and shooing flies away from the front of my lens like a windscreen wiper. That's how bad they were. I lost it.
Yeah.
Kids would lose it. So, yeah, bugs, heat.
and at the temperatures were like 100 and
Yeah, when we're in
115. It was
Outback
45
Australia.
degrees Celsius.
It
I
was
don't know what
100
that
and
is.
probably 115 Fahrenheit.
Probably higher than that, I'm
with
not sure.
flies like just in your ears, in your eyes, in your mouth are like horrendous.
These are the stories. This is why we travel.
Funny now, but back then, no.
Anyway, that's the road trips. We dove into a little bit of family travel tips there.
I'm not saying like
The road trips.
but in saying that can happen. Kids can lose it on a plane too, or a bus
Oh,
or a
yeah.
train. So not saying just don't do road trips because they lose it anyway.
Yeah. But they feel more comfortable, especially younger kids, because as parents they like their little area of comfort.
Their little car
They're
seat
known,
and
so it's
like
the
little
known
space.
for them. Yeah, they know this is my little area and it's
Plus,
familiar.
a road trip compared to a flight or a bus or a train, like you can easily take your stroller, your car seat, the little toys. Easy, you can throw everything in the trunk or in your skybox on your roof racks or whatever. Like that's what I love about car trips. It's so much easier to take your stuff.
Yeah. It's good. It's really good with kids. You can.
All right, probably
train
getting off
them.
topic here.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. So a trend here, which I'm very happy to see, and should have always just been this way, but people just really returning to the purpose of travel. What is it? What is it? What meaning does it bring to my life? Why is this important? Why am I even doing this thing? And it's the new traveler, where it's more of a journey. An experience, and it's less now about the flashy Instagram shot and the likes and the comments. And I know we're in the social media space, so we know it's a very tricky balance. But I find, and I'm so grateful that we did so much travel before social media. Because for us, it was we just had little cameras. It was just about the experience.
I'm glad I did
and
a
the
lot.
moment.
I'm glad I did a lot of things before social media.
Yeah.
I'm glad I went to school before social media. Played my professional sport before social media. Like all the above.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
But I think so many people now, we're seeing it, that many areas are getting overrun with long lines of people waiting 2-3 hours just to take a photo. They can get a lot of likes for an Instagram, and they're missing the beauty of the region they're in or the interactions they can have with the locals. They're missing the journey of learning and growing.
Yeah, totally.
And I do think that we've been in lockdown. We're discovering there's more. It's about connection now. And I do believe it will head this way, and I really, really hope it does, because I want people to travel. Sure, get the photos. We like the memories, whatever. But I know, the beauty of travel comes in the experience and how you learn and grow. And I just want to see people return to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Like social media, I mean, anyone can throw a filter on a photo and pretty it up, but then I've seen so many times. Like for example, there's somewhere in Bali or Indonesia, there's this swing in the ocean that's a popular Instagram spot. But when you open up the lens around the camera, it's nothing like you would imagine. But that's so many examples of that. But I mean, like if you're looking for a real estate property or a house, like you can easily edit the photos and then the look, style them how you want, but then you drive past the place and you're like, is that it? Like, it looks totally different. So that's been the negative thing of, so I'm not just going to bash Instagram, but social media, like, it's giving people a false perspective, false expectation of a destination and stuff like that. We're part of that industry, obviously. But I'm careful, try and make our shots as natural as possible, our photos and stuff like that, and our videos without being too staged. Like I don't like all that. Like people would spend like 2 hours setting up a picnic scene in front of the Eiffel Tower just to get the perfect shot. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I mean, we couldn't even do that if we wanted to with our kids. It'd be like, they would have lost it. I would have lost it. Like the scene is done. It's gone. Yeah. I mean, like, I get there's a market for that, like fashion photography and like what have you, but yeah, and then but you could go there just for a family vacation expecting this scene and this setting, and it doesn't exist, and you're like disappointed. And you saved all your money and put so much time and effort in to get there, and so just keep that in mind.
Yeah, so plan your travel for the experience and the story, not the great photo you can get.
The memories, like go for the memories, accumulate memories and moments, not like possessions or that one photo that you can, for bragging rights or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's very similar to, we've done a lot of, hikes up mountains and we did some tough ones before the girls. But I remember when we did Mount Fansipan in Vietnam and we did a 2-day hike and, you go on this hike and you want to summit the mountain and you're up so many thousand feet and you're like, okay, I'm going to get to the top of this mountain, then I'm going to have all these beautiful views. And so we did the 2-day hike. We get to the top of the mountain, it's completely covered in clouds.
Don't even get to see the view.
But we didn't care because we had such an amazing time.
That 2 days.
Hiking and the stories that we got from
Endless stories from that 2-day hike. Of course we wanted to see the view, but it's nature. Like if it's fogged in or whatever,
then you
can't control that.
It wasn't really what it was about. It wasn't about that picture at the top that said, hey, I was
the
here.
accomplishment.
Yeah.
The stories and the accomplishment and the experience is what we remember most. Yeah. I mean, we would have remembered the view, sure, but it wasn't the only thing. Far from it. Yeah. So, yeah, totally.
So return to that kind of more purposeful travel, and I think people are seeking those stories when they're looking for inspiration. Like they don't just want to see the person with the floppy hat holding it at a place on Instagram. They actually want to see the story.
Walking through that lavender field or whatever it is, holding the dress out at one angle and the hand on the head, and me like, okay, stop, Craig. But then, like, if you go out to a nice restaurant or a famous place to eat, like, put your phone down and enjoy your food and talk to your family and friends. Don't be like taking 1,000 photos and updating your Facebook.
Okay, I'm just going to jump in because we do this. So
I know.
We'll just share some tips because we do it for business. But no one touch your food for 2 minutes.
We get the shot.
Snap.
We get the shot, then eat. And then update it later, that night or the next day or whatever.
Yeah.
We learned that lesson because when we first started in this industry 10 years ago, we would, we've got to get this out now. Mm-mm. But for two important reasons we don't do that, because we're not present, not in the moment. And the other one, security. Obviously, you don't want to know you want other people to know where you are live, like right then and there, especially if you've got young kids. So you obviously you don't want to tag your location. You want to be careful about that.
Yeah, delay it later. But yeah, definitely. I mean,
it's a tough one because we travel, like share food stuff all the time, but
there are ways you can balance it out. Like, don't let it dominate the experience. No. Do it quickly. And we just say, do it as soon as you get there. Right, let's do it. Photos, video, whatever. Okay, bang, away. All right, let's now enjoy it.
Yeah, update it later on in the night or that afternoon when you're just hanging out at the hotel doing nothing.
Yeah. Okay, another trend which has been happening and will keep going because it's going to be a while before people feel comfortable enough to travel a little bit further is local travel. And I think we mentioned this in previous podcast when we first moved back after living here in Raleigh. Actually, it was our 5-year honeymoon. We moved back to Australia. we had great difficulty adjusting, and then the next time we moved back, we knew what to do, and we knew, well, we are going to experience our hometown as a traveller. We're going to change our perspective, and things really changed for us then when we became a traveller in our own hometown and saw
Yeah.
it with new eyes and tried different things, and you can just bring your home area to life and find things you didn't know, discover ways to love it. And we're sharing a lot about Raleigh on our channels, so you can find, if you're listening from Raleigh, some really cool things this city has that you can do. So you can travel in your own backyard.
Yeah, I love local travel. Like it's stress-free, doesn't take a lot of planning, doesn't take a lot of time. You don't have to pack your bags. It's great.
good.
It could be anything from checking out a new cafe, a new trail, new picnic spot, new lake. You could hike to the top of a hill for a view. There's so many things you can incorporate. Like go for a drive to a new, somewhere an hour away. Like it's endless. Like local travel, that's where it's at. It's awesome. It's great.
Yeah.
And you get to appreciate where you live instead of wanting to go somewhere else all the time. It's like, oh, we've got all these cool spots here.
Yeah, that's right. It's always at your fingertips. And we see, I'm noticing a lot of people doing staycations in their city. So staying at a pretty cool hotel or resort. And the good thing about that, and we know, is that we often stay in really cool places. We never get to experience it because we're always out exploring the region that we're in, and we're missing out on what's fun and cool about hotels. So if you do a staycation, you know your area. You don't really need to go out and run around all day. You can just enjoy the amenities of the hotel and get some kind of a break, I think.
Yeah, that's what we did one in Raleigh. We did a staycation at the State View Hotel, which is on NC State Centennial Campus right on Lake Raleigh.
Yeah.
That was great. We just hung out by the pool. The hotel's like in the forest, in the woods, on the lake. Kids just swam in the pool. We kicked back by the pool, read a book, had a few drinks, had dinner. Oh, we drove. You could have dinner in the hotel. We drove into downtown, which is like 5 minutes away. Had dinner the next morning. Back in the pool again, just chilling. Drove 5 minutes down the road, got a coffee from Jabala, one of my favorite coffee spots, and just like slow pace, slow travel, chill. Appreciate, like even just to change the scenery, just to get out of your house.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to go to New York City or Vegas or wherever, stay in a different hotel, like a staycation.
Yeah.
There's plenty of great. We're going to try and do that more ourselves this year and bring that to you. But there's
and
a
even
ton of options.
Durham, they have some cool hotels now. You could go to Durham, you could go to Johnson County. I mean, there's so many different areas, like just 40 minutes from here.
Whether you go with your family or your girlfriends or the guys or whatever, like girls could go and, dinner or shopping or whatever. Guys could go and play golf at a resort nearby or something or whatever. There's a million things to do.
Yeah, so many options.
You don't have to jump in a plane and fly overseas or next state. Like
No. I mean, we always say, think about why you want to travel. What experience do you want to have? Because we travel for a feeling. We want to experience a feeling. It's less about, I want to see the Eiffel Tower, but I want to have this feeling while I'm there. So think about what that is for you. And then, how can I have that feeling in my local area?
Yeah.
So I'm saving money, but I'm still getting the feeling I want, but I'm just doing it close to home.
Yeah. And one thing we're going to do moving forward this year too is like how you can experience different countries in Raleigh, like whether it's a food, like what are the Italian places to eat at experiences, or French or Mexican or, the UK, you name it, so that you can still find little different angles, a way to experience different cultures that way too.
Exactly. Like the last podcast we mentioned some of our favourite places. Taverna Agora.
The Greek place, Taverna Agora.
You can have that Retsina wine.
Yeah,
2,000-year-old wine.
Greek food, great atmosphere. I mean, there's a London Bridge pub. Go and have a pint and some fish and chips, or an English breakfast. It's endless. There's German bakeries. There's Italian restaurants. There's French restaurants. There's Vietnamese stuff. It's endless.
Everything, yeah.
Whether it's a festival or a food or a drink or a dish, you just got to, be creative. Take the blinkers off and
head on out there.
Keep it simple.
That's the theme of the year.
Keep it simple.
Simplicity.
The old KISS principle.
Keep it simple, stupid. Okay, moving on. Remote work and learning. Now we know we know this very well, y'all. We've been remote work and learning for like 10 years. So teaching our kids and all that.
I think everyone's doing it now.
Everyone's been thrown into it. It's funny. People always say, how's it affected you? It's like, things haven't really changed much for us. We've always done work from home and homeschooling, but
just every other day.
People are kind of really struggling. But a wonderful thing that's come out of this is, and for families especially, I think, understanding that you don't have to be tied to a brick building or wooden building, whatever it is. You can actually work from, well, not everyone.
You don't have to be location dependent.
Yes,
and go and commute to your office.
Yep, and with school now, people have been able to do it at home, and suddenly they've been able to say, oh, hang on a minute. Could I go to Outer Banks for the week and rent a house, and my kids could still jump online and do school?
Absolutely.
And then in the evening we can paddle.
That's been the beauty of our life the last 10 years. All you need is an internet connection and away you go. Flexibility.
Yeah.
It's been awesome.
It's fantastic.
And actually we have one coming up soon that we'll share in the near future. But yeah, it's going to be like a workcation and schoolcation. Our kids, they go to an online school, so they've been doing that anyway. But because of COVID and the school situation, kids are at home working online, and a lot of people are working on home online on their jobs. So
yeah, that's right.
There's an option there.
One of the best ways to do it is rent a house. You have all your amenities. Get one that has good internet, great location, and then you can do that slow, simple travel, but at the same time balance it with work and learning. And then you have this wonderful way of approaching life where you're getting to do so much of not only what you need to do but what you want to do in one kind of whole experience.
Yeah, plus if you go midweek, avoid the weekend crowds.
Yeah.
That's another hot tip for traveling and, being able to do it cheaper and less contact, isolate easier. Because you're flexible, because obviously if you're working full-time and your kids are in school, you've got the weekends or the vacation breaks. You're kind of limited. But now it's going to open up a whole new, new game on.
That's right. I think schools are starting to open up now. So I'm hoping that some families have really been able to take advantage of that.
Yeah, of course we want things to go back to, do we want normal? Like not completely normal, because some things have to change. But yeah, hopefully, of course, COVID, disappears.
Yeah.
To a degree.
But I still think that new pathway has opened up for people, this new way of thinking. And I'm sure many people are going to make different choices in their life now and say, well, I've just proven to myself that I was forced into it, but I can go down this pathway where I bring back more flexibility and freedom for myself and opportunity to live in accordance with my values. So I think even though there may be more kind of limitations as we move back into a semi-normal life with people going back to school and maybe work, I think they're figuring out alternatives and way they can balance it out better.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether you work for yourself or a big corporation, I know businesses are, figuring out that they don't need to have 5 in-person meetings per day. They could do like a virtual call using their technology and save on, all the commercial real estate space and stuff like that. So it's cheaper and flexible, and people can be more proactive and get more done in less amount of time.
Yeah, it's an exciting way forward for many people. And I think the last one, the last two, they kind of tie into each other, but it's pretty obvious really, but health and safety is going to be super important moving forward. People are going to want to know what procedures are in place for sanitisation and all of that, and how are they going to have less touch points, which I know at the moment is super important. I don't want to or refuse to envision a world where that is the norm, where touch points are kind of shut down and we become this kind of automated, technology-driven place where we're so isolated from each other. I know it's essential now, and so in 2021, that's obviously going to be the way moving forward. But I hope that we come back to being able to hug one another again.
Oh yeah, shake someone's hand and have a hug and that human. Of course, I miss that totally. Yeah. And like going to a country, there's so many like hand sanitizers everywhere. I understand, I get it. I'm not saying don't wash your hands and all stuff like that. Of course, it's important. But before that, people would do that anyway. But like when we go to a new country, you want to touch the dirt and be exposed to the local, environment and stuff, like to build immunity naturally. You don't want to live in a spacesuit and sanitizer, because your immune system is going to be weak, and then the instant that you do come in contact with something, you're going to be susceptible to it. So you need to build up, to a degree, natural defenses and immunity. So, yeah, find that balance between, obviously washing your hands and covering your mouth when you cough and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Everyone knows
but don't,
what to do now.
hopefully we're not living like this forever and going crazy and living in bubbles, like with no touch, no nothing.
Yeah. But that is for this year anyway.
Yeah.
People are, automated check-in processes where you can check in
Mm-hmm.
via apps and you don't have to see anyone. And a lot of hotels are
That's
doing that
amazing
anyway,
technologies out there. Like, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
Obviously the vaccinations are going to be big for this year, and I'm sure when we were traveling Africa, etc., we had a little yellow passport which had all our vaccination details in it. Thankfully, and I'm pretty sure that there's going to be some kind of digital formats of that where people can actually have their vaccination records on a phone, which is much easier to carry around the world with you than your little vaccination yellow booklet that can easily get lost. So I think more digital apps and things will come out which will make recording and tracking these vaccinations easier for people. And we mentioned at the beginning, when no one really knows what government regulations are going to come or company regulations in regards to the vaccine. So it's just a matter of keeping up to date to see if people are going to make it mandatory or not. Okay, and so to tie it up, our last one, which we've always said is a really important thing to take with you when you travel, and people are definitely going to be looking at it now, is travel insurance. Whether that's international or domestic travel, we feel it's just as important.
Yeah, it's not a sexy topic, obviously. Like, people, I mean, I don't like having to pay for insurance for anything.
No one does.
But yeah, it's kind of like a necessary evil. I mean, because, the what ifs, and it's not that expensive when you look at a travel insurance policy for the coverage and the peace of mind that it can buy. I mean, we always say, like, if you can't afford travel insurance, you can't afford to travel. I mean, it's just a no-brainer, really, whether it's international or even domestic, because something can and often does go wrong. It's whether you have to cancel a trip unexpectedly, you lose your luggage, you get injured doing an activity, what have you. You lose important paperwork. Stuff happens, and if you don't have travel insurance, you could lose $10,000, $20,000 more, like hundreds of thousands if it's a major medical accident.
Yeah.
Or you're stranded somewhere and you can't fly home. But yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot of different types of policies and stuff, and you got to read the fine print. But it's.
It can. I know it, and I know a lot of people think, well, they have health insurance, so they don't need it. But I know, we have some stories, but also there's the consideration that you could be over in Nevada and you have a problem and you need to be flown back to North Carolina, you've broken your leg or whatever, you need to be put in business class so that you have the room.
Yeah.
Travel insurance will cover that for you. Your health insurance is not going to.
No. Or you could,
So there's
or
different
the other
aspects.
thing, like, still confusing to us, the health system here, like, you're out of network or what all those terminologies that you guys have over here.
Yeah.
Still just getting our heads around. So don't just rely on your health insurance. No.
And we did that. We made that mistake when we were road tripping in our RV. We just got careless and didn't extend our travel insurance policy. And, we had the health insurance, and Kalira ended up with stitches in her chin over in California. And we ended up having to pay $1,000 out of pocket with the health insurance. If we had travel insurance, we wouldn't have had to pay for that. So, I mean, it can be super costly if something goes wrong and you're not covered.
Yeah, particularly like these, like, trip cancellation, obviously, with what's going on in the world. But not just that, like natural disasters, like a hurricane or anything could damage your destination and you can't go there. And you've outlaid all this money for your accommodation and your flights and stuff like that. But the other hot tip with travel insurance, don't wait. We used to do this stupidly. Don't wait till the night before you fly out to get your policy. As soon as you've booked your flight or your hotel, get it then. Whether it's 6 months ahead or whatever, get some coverage, because if you have to cancel, and you've paid all your money for your flights and your hotel, you won't get that back.
No, your policy starts from the moment you buy it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it will cover you, if there's a 6-month difference between booking and going. If something happens in that 6 months, you will be covered. It's a very important thing to remember
Yeah.
with travel insurance.
Yeah.
And just what's going to happen with travel insurance because of this pandemic. Well, obviously things are going to really change. No one kind of really foresaw this happening. So there's a few policies that you can pay attention to that some companies do have. The cancel for any reason policy. So that should cover you for most unforeseeable events, including a pandemic. Please just do your due diligence. You must really investigate what the policy does and doesn't cover.
Yeah.
If you need to speak to customer service and ask them, and go with a company that has a really good customer service.
Yeah.
Look for the ratings that they have. We're ambassadors for Allianz Travel, so obviously we are ambassadors for them for a reason. We do trust them. They're a great company, so we do recommend them. But there are a lot of other good companies out there as well. And I know from our talks with Allianz and where they're moving forward, they don't have a cancel for any reason policy, but they're in discussions now as a result of this pandemic to see what policies they can create as a result of this to protect future travellers' investment.
Yeah, and keep in mind what activities you're going to do. Like if you're going to go skiing, for example, or jump out of a plane or skydiving or an adventure activity, most often you have to get an additional add-on to your basic plan because most basic plans won't cover adventure activity, more dangerous, risk-adverse activities. So be careful of that. And other things too, I know a lot of people, Australians or even Americans, have got in trouble in Bali, renting scooters and stuff and having accidents, thinking they're covered, but you're not if you don't. If you don't have a motorbike accident license, you're not covered under your policy as well. So there's a lot of things to be aware of, depending on what activities you're going to do. If you're just going to sit around a pool all day, you could just get the basic plan. But if you're going to go skiing or mountain biking or adventure stuff, you might need an additional coverage attached to your basic plan.
Yeah, and I think to look at how much do you stand to lose and think about what are you carrying with you. A lot of people take cameras and phones and laptops now, so you may have to increase your limits as to what's covered in case something happens to that. But, think about what you stand to lose. So if you're going international, and I don't expect many people to be doing that this year, but your investment is obviously a lot higher into your trip and you stand to lose a lot more. So your coverage is probably going to want to be bigger. If you're domestic road tripping and maybe you're camping everywhere, well, you don't stand to lose a lot if something goes wrong.
No.
But make sure you have enough to cover medical and your possessions.
Yeah.
Really is how we kind of figure out what kind of policies to get.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Hey, that was a lot. We have a lot to talk about, funny enough.
I mean, travel.
We know a lot about travel.
It's a big deal. It's a big industry.
Yeah.
We hope it comes back sustainably, smartly, with purpose. Yes.
Yep. All the things that we spoke about, and that's what we're going to be sharing on our channels and giving you, hopefully, lots of tips and resources and show you ways.
And we will link to all those posts and companies, what have you, in the show notes.
Sure.
So you can find that information.
Thanks for joining us once again. Please review the podcast, like it, subscribe, share it with your mates. We appreciate
leave us a comment, shoot us a message, anything else you want us to chat about in the podcast.
We'll see
help
you in
you
the next
out.
episode.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.